Ni hao. Hello, this is Lloyd Kelly. I'm presenting today a tutorial on Tai Chi walking. I will go over some of the fundamentals and also the pitfalls. And I think the pitfalls may bring you kind of an aha moment to help you understand Tai Chi a little better. Tai Chi is fundamentally gentle, safe, and beneficial. However, it can be inadvertently harmful. This is not related to style, opinion, or credentials. It's about safety. And I do not mean to cast any dispersions on anyone, and that people they only know what they know. And I'm sure no one is intentionally doing anything to give somebody sore knees or back pain. It's just gets passed along. So like I say, people only know what they know, and I hope this will give you a little bit of an aha moment. First of all, I'd like to show you the very basics on this, and we'll just do footwork here. Feet hip width apart. Now, sometimes you hear shoulder width apart, hip width apart. A way to find hip width, let me show you this. You can stand like Charlie Chaplin, and if you're too young to know who Charlie Chaplin is, you just say like a penguin, and then pivot on your toes, and that will give you hip width, your feet parallel. Not everyone has the same width of shoulder, sometimes even more narrow than hip width, but this is pretty consistent, and I think a good width for beginners. Shoulder width is from the outside of your foot to the outside of your shoulder. Okay, now let's get our basic posture here, which is our head up, spirit up. Our knees are slightly bent, tailbone's a little bit tucked under, shoulders down, relaxed. Now, our weight is on what's called the bubbling well, which is an acupressure point. The bubbling well is, if this were your foot, it's where your arch meets the ball of foot. Sometime you'll hear people think it's actually in the middle of the ball of the foot or the middle of the foot, but it's not. It's about a third down from your toes. That's the bubbling wells. And I want to show you a way to find this. I think the easiest way is by calibration. So, for example, let's put a lot of weight on our heels, enough so that we can pick up our toes. See, pick up the toes. Now put them on your ball of foot and toes, you can pick up your heel. Now put that weight on the ball, between the ball of foot and the arch, third back from your toes. You will not be able to pick up your toes or your heels. Feels kind of like a magic trick. Now this is important because in Tai Chi walking, we're going from one foot to the other foot, and each time we're standing on one foot for a little while, 100% of our weight on the bubbling well. Now when you stand on this bubbling well, you might feel a little bit like you're leaning forward. However, you're not. You're just probably used to standing too much on your heels. All right, we go from there. I'm just going to do the first part, concentrating on our feet, footwork. Shift your weight to one side, pour it. Don't let your shoulders lean. Pivot on your heel, that foot at an angle. Weight on that foot, just let it sink down. Step forward, heel, ball of foot, toe. Shift your weight forward, 60% of your weight's on the front foot. Shift back, pivot on that front heel, open your hip. Now you have your feet going at two different angles here, kind of like a duck. I don't think there's a duck stance, but we can think about duck. And then the opening here of the quad The hips are all open, crotch is rounded. Now we step forward, heel, toe, shift forward. 60% of the weight's on the front foot, 40's on the back. Good. Now, let me show you this using your hands, and the hands are actually can be very helpful for balance, and I think it'll help you see how the movements go on this. We do a Wu Chi pose, a tree hugger pose, or you can think about this as holding a big beach ball. Shoulders are down, elbows are down, relaxed. Shift your weight. You're sunk down. Pivot on that heel, and you see how you're facing over this way. Your hips are turned to the corner. Pour your weight. Step forward. Shift your weight forward. Now turn your torso. You're turning your waist. You don't turn your hips. Your hips are still open. Shift back. Turn. Weight goes forward. 100% of the weight on that bubbling well. Step. Shift forward. Good. Now let me go over the pitfalls, and I think that this will help you. And I do want to mention that sometimes people confuse Tai Chi stance, the bow stance, and confuse or conflate or combine Tai Chi natural walking. That's walking with Tai Chi principles. Show you how that works. Walking with Tai Chi principles, your head's up, spirit's up, heel toe, opposite hand, opposite foot. Opposite hand, opposite foot. Now see, that looks like conventional walking, but you're walking with Tai Chi principles. Now, I'll do another video on natural walking, but I really feel like Tai Chi walking should be called Tai Chi bow stance walking, because what it is, you go from one bow stance to another. And a bow stance is basic to just about all the martial arts because it's so stable, and the notion you can think of is as if your bow, as if you're shooting a bow, an arrow. So that's your stance. Now you're not really bow-legged, but you are opened up in your leg. And also another way to kind of think about it, so you can remember to not lock your back knee, it's slightly bowed. And that applies, that bow stance is in judo, kung fu, pretty much all of them, because it's so stable. Now, let's go over some of the pitfalls. One thing, right off the bat, feet too close. Don't maintain the hip width. Now, when the feet are close, you probably know this walk, right? The DUI walk. Well, that's hard to do when you're sober, because your feet are so close together. So we don't want to let our feet get too close. That's a big one. And many times we start off okay on the hip width, but then it starts getting closer and closer together. All right, here's another one. And this is a big one. This is where everyone needs to pay attention, is to shift, and the standard is a 45-degree turn. Now, it's not turning with your ankle, it's turning at your hip up here. This is the hinge and the ball and socket turning up here, not down there. So what happens is students will look and they hear 45 and they look at their foot and they turn it. So what happens if you turn your foot, your knee and your toe are not lined up and you're side loading your knee. It doesn't take too much Tai Chi walking to get knee pain. Many times it will happen, people take Tai Chi and they go, oh, it's just not for me because my knees are killing me. It's because, and it's possible a big class, the instructor hasn't noticed, but most people, when they're beginners, don't have more than about 30%. flexibility. The flexibility becomes more. Some instructors even say, for beginners, turn your toe slightly, because what'll happen is people will crank that around and that inside pain. Very important. So only go to what's comfortable right here. Okay. And not turn the ankle rather than the hip. Okay, here's another one. This is where the upright notion gets conflated with and combined with natural walking. Because when we do Tai Chi walking, shift, we step forward in the bow stance, 60% of our weight is in the front foot. So we are meant to be at an angle tilted this way. It's a tilt or a little bit of a lean. We're not bending over. But if we were to walk, and some people will say walk with you have a book on your head or a teacup, which is correct for natural walking, but Tai Chi walking with the bow stance, it's not. I'll show you why. If we go forward about 60% and we bring our head up, we're going to be putting strain on our lower back. It's pinching our lower back and puts tension in there. Not good. It's also sometimes said through a translation in Chinese is lean, don't lean. So just want to make sure that that's straight. And also, depending on the size of your step, if it's a larger step, more advanced, then it'd be even worse on your back. So you need to maintain that straightness. Okay. Here's another one of locking knees when walking. So this is coming out, step, and lock that knee, and then heel comes down. So that gives a shock and shocks the knee. The knee needs to be soft. And this is why they also refer to this as cat walking. So it's meant to be very quiet and come down. Okay. Back heel lifting is common. People put too much weight forward and the back heel comes up. If we do that, we're throwing ourselves off balance and we tend to load up that front knee. Don't want to do that. And we always want to have our knee and toe aligned and not go beyond that knee. Then we're really putting way too much on that knee. Okay. And something else, we are meant to keep our head at the same level, our hips at the same level as we move through space, and we are not meant to go up and down, up and down. We keep it at the same level the whole time, not the wave. All right, let me go over a couple other things here, and I'm going to go back and show. We're going to do a little bit of a drill here to work on this. Another thing that you see, and these things aren't so terrible, but sometimes they get confusing for beginners. One is to do it with your hands behind your back. It's like, okay, I can do Tai Chi with my hands tied behind my back. Well, let me show you why that can be a difficulty either. They'll grasp hands or have their hands here. I say it's not too bad if you remember to keep that tilt, because people put their hands back here and they tend to arch and be up too straight and have their back arched. The back should be relaxed. So this is something to really watch out for there. And plus, it makes beginners feel pretty vulnerable to have their hands behind their back because they don't feel like they have any balance. Okay. Another thing you'll see is taking a half step, like step, this way, step, and then step. Shift, step, step. People do that, they tend to look down, which we're not supposed to do. We're supposed to try to keep our eyes level on the horizon and use our peripheral vision. Here's another one that you'll see is tap, step, shift, tap, shift. And I think it's a little awkward. I'm going to give you an alternative to these. Another one is centering step, where you can see we're kind of really don't have much stability, and then step back out. Along that line, there's some folks that come in and do a C step. Boom. Back. C step. Boom. Well, what happens is that people tend to lean back and then lean forward and put their foot down too abruptly. So that's what we don't want to be doing. Okay, let me go back now and let's do the little tutorial. We've got all kinds of ways not to do it. Let's do something to help you do it. All right, these are feet apart. And we're going to do this, hold this ball, shift to the side, pivot on that heel, turning with our hip, not, then our weight goes there, all the weight's there, pick up this other foot, heel, ball of foot, toe, pour it forward, straight. Back, shift, forward, straight. Good. Let me give you one other pitfall. Is some folks have this, they get a little confused and think the hips have to be straight. Well, if you try to get your hips completely straight, that's putting strain on things. It doesn't really work. So what we're doing here is we are turning at our waist. Remember, the waist is the commander. Turn our waist, and to have that waist release, we need our tailbone slightly tucked under. Okay, good. Now, this is such a valuable bow stance to bow stance is when we combine it with upper body, and we can do posture practice or movement practice. We can repeat one movement. Now, the one that's most common is brush knee, push. Brush knee, push. And we can really exercise our principle here of combining upper and lower. And let me show you here. Brush knee, push. And what this is one hand comes over. You think like you're brushing the snow off of a table, and this hand is a strike. Push forward. Brush off that snow, push. Or it could be the hood of the car, I don't know. Brush, and it comes right out of your shoulder. Brush knee. Great exercise, and we can practice postures that sometimes in different forms, they only occur sometimes once or a few times, but this way we get over and over both sides. We get left brain, right brain, upper, lower, good stuff. Another one would be, common one is Fair Lady work shuttles. Fair Lady work shuttles. Good. Fair Lady work shuttles. Okay, another good one, part wild horse's mane. Part wild horse's mane. Part wild horse's mane. This is the one where you're tossing the frisbee. Whoop, there you go. Good. Well, I enjoyed spending some time with you. Hope this is helpful for you. And enjoy your Tai Chi. It is so healthful, it's so good for you. And great that you're taking some agency and taking care of yourselves. Saijan. That's goodbye. And Jai Yo. Jai Yo. Stay strong. Be strong. Jai Yo.